And welcome to our November edition of Sports Highlights. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone as we take Sports Highlights on the road, countdown to 300 shows in March of 2020. Greg Bickaveris, glad you're with us at Greg Bick on Twitter. Our show comes on Mondays at 7 a.m., 2 p.m., 7 p.m., weekends at 9 a.m. It's a pleasure to talk to the head women's basketball coach at Warwick High School, Vanessa Starks. Good to see you.
Nice to see you too, Greg.
We're talking a long time, several decades now.
Decades, yes.
Did you think when you first got the job that you'd be here in 2019 still?
I absolutely did not. I'd planned on retiring probably 10 years back, but I'm still here.
Hey, it keeps you young, it keeps you youthful. Tell us about your teams over the years. What kind of style do you like to play?
Well, I think the style has changed for me over the years because of caliber of players that I've had. I like a lot of read and react, which is a lot of motion offense. I like continuity, but again, that changes as the kids change.
When you talk about as the kids change, recruiting is also a big issue, good, bad, sometimes ugly. You had a player that went to Old Dominion that played as well, but she didn't necessarily see the playing time she thought she would.
Well, I think you're speaking of Laquanda Younger, but Laquanda actually had a back injury her junior year, which kind of affected her playing. But she did graduate, which, is the most important thing.
Yeah, we interviewed her on the road, and it seemed like she really enjoyed her college experience, regardless of basketball, taking that positive reinforcement she learned from high school to go to college.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's doing very well now. I believe she has her own businesses. She actually has about 2 businesses now out of state, so she's doing very well.
When you talk about certain types of offense and defense, a lot of times you see a motion offense, defense, you might see man-to-man, full court pressure. How come you don't see a whole lot of zone in girls or boys basketball?
Well, I think now a lot of coaches now, rather than spending a lot of time teaching the fundamentals of basketball, they play what I call bully basketball, where they just send the kids, double team, triple team, and when you do that, you don't have to teach a lot of fundamental basketball. So you don't see a lot of zones now because it takes time to teach that. Whereas it doesn't take a lot of effort to just send 3 kids, to guard one person with the ball. So you see a lot of haphazardness when it comes to defense now.
You really have to teach that during the off season because you wait till the day before the game, it might be too late. They really have to buy in your system from day one at practice.
Absolutely, and that is one of the reasons I went to the read and react system where the defense actually has to try to figure out what the offense is doing. Continuity offenses is easy to read, it's easy to defend, but when we go to just teaching the kids how to play basketball and read the situations, you do a lot better, especially if you don't have a lot of elite kids. And I think that's why our program has done as well as it has. We've won 2 conference titles, haven't won any regional titles, but we've always stayed in the pack of things, and that's because I think that the kids are playing basketball. They know how to play basketball versus running plays.
For several decades, she's been the head girls basketball coach here at Warwick High School. She has sustained, folks. Vanessa Starks with us on the road here for our November Sports Highlights on the road. And really, you talk about the attitudes, too. That's very important. It's not just about how good of an athlete you are. By the time you see them in the afternoon, they could have had a really good day, a bad day, could have some personal issues. You've dealt with it all in 20 years.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that coaches now, the kids are different now. They don't play outside as much as they used to, and they're different. And one of the things that you have to understand, like you said, they may have had a bad day, maybe something went on at home. You have to have an open door policy to where those kids can come to you before practice and say, hey, I'm not feeling well today. And that's one of the things that I pride myself on, that the kids, if they need to talk to me, they can talk to me. And I don't tolerate a lot of nonsense, and that's one of the things that kids understand, that you care about them, and they understand if you get on them, and they understand, what the not the recommendations, what the requirements are for a program, and they adhere to those if there are rules. They do.
Right. And when you talk about some of the days, especially game days, when you're playing a team like Phoebus or Woodside and you have a pretty long road trip, they start their days early in the morning. They don't get home till late at night. Then there's food involved. How do you keep them going? Because, by the time lunchtime is a long way before tip off.
Well, there's a routine that I've been using for 20 plus years. And if you look in my office now, I keep snacks and lunches. I have a microwave oven. I keep things. I have a little refrigerator. So that's one of the things that I make sure that the kids get, even if it's not game day, they get some type of snack or fruit or something so they can have some energy to do what we need them to do. And on game days, we actually feed them on game days.
You use the same philosophy as the girls' tennis coaches. You do basketball. You try to keep it the same, or how do you determine tennis talent?
Tennis talent, again, I use some of the girls from the basketball team because they're already athletic and they know what's required to be an athlete. But tennis is a different kind of a sport that, you either can play tennis or you can't play tennis. One of the things that I do is I have a competitive team and I also have a developmental team because I don't cut anybody. In high school, I just have that philosophy that you shouldn't cut anybody provided, the grades are good and they really want to learn the sport. Especially with girls. Girls just don't have a tendency to stay in sports. And then they get to high school and they decide that they want to play a sport and they don't know how. So how can you cut a kid that has never been taught? So I have developmental teams as well.
And that goes hand in hand in reality, too, because Denby's girls did not have a basketball team last year. That just didn't affect Denby. That affected all 5 Newport News schools, all 4 Hampton schools, and Gloucester, almost a bye.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Again, I mentioned before, I think that was a sad thing for the girls' game that we did not have Denby did not have a girls' team. And again, it starts at the middle school. And thank God we do have middle school programs, but we just need to get more girls involved in sports earlier.
Do you like to make a lot of halftime adjustments based on who you're playing?
I do. I mean, that's just basketball. If you have to make adjustments, you have to make adjustments. That's basketball.
Talking to Vanessa Starks, the head girls basketball coach at Warwick High School and one of the auxiliary gyms. And Warwick's got a lot of history. It's the oldest school in Newport News, and you worked hand in hand with Ben Moore for several years before he passed away.
Yes, Ben was a very good friend. I learned a lot from him, and I really admired the way that, he really felt love for his kids. He's a great guy.
Our November show is Warwick and Menchville both, and ironically, he coached both varsity boys basketball teams. As far as the district this year, how does it look? Who are some of the top teams?
I believe the top teams again this year will be Hampton High School and Mitchfield High School will be the top teams.
Yep. How about your players? Who stands out for the 2019-2020 squad?
Well, for me, it's like coming here in 2001. We are a brand new team. We have nothing but ninth graders and 10th graders, ninth graders that have just left middle school. So it will be challenging, exciting, because when you have kids that don't know, you can only get better, but we're going to have some challenges this year.
And that's one thing you've always done is you played the good freshmen at the varsity level, because why waste it? Because they can play as ninth graders. Sometimes maturity takes a little bit of time, but you help them with that already.
Absolutely, and we'll be doing a lot of that this year. I think we're going to have probably 9 ninth graders, a couple of sophomores, 4 or 5 sophomores, only 1 junior and 1 senior.
You made a good point about cutting. Sometimes that can be a positive or a negative. It can affect the kid's self-esteem, or they can take it a step further if they're mature enough and then help them down the road.
Well, for me in the women's game, the reason I said before is I don't like to cut, because many of those kids come from middle school and never played. But, why discourage them when they come to high school? Because we say, as coaches, we want these kids to do this for a lifetime, not necessarily to get scholarships to go to college, but to use athletics as a lifetime.
We rely on a lot of technology, our computers and our phones, but it feels really good, Vanessa, to go exercise, go for a walk, play basketball, and put the phone down.
Put the phone down, absolutely. But, we say that now a lot of coaches are using the phones for gauging the kids' performance. We use the phone to keep in contact with them. But that's part of it now is kids don't play the way that they used to.
How about the desire? Do you see the desire compared to 2001 today as far as I really want to get better, I want to work on my jump shot, I want to work on dribbling, that type of stuff?
No, you don't see that now. That's sort of rare. You'll get a couple kids that have that desire, and I'm only speaking about the kids that I've worked with and girls in particular. It's more of a social thing now. Some would do it just socially, and then they realize, hey, I could be good at this. But the desire is not there the way that it used to be. But then that's up to the coaches, too. That's something that we have to instill into the kids once, they come into our program, a desire to be the best that you're at.
And you've always stressed academics from the jump.
Absolutely. Well, I have no choice here at Warwick High School. We have the IB program here, and I have been fortunate enough the last 20 years that I've had a group of IB kids that maintain 4-point, GPAs. I have the Gravette sisters that's left, Virginia Tech, Navy Academy. I've had kids that are doctors and pharmacists that play basketball. And I think basketball or any sport for those IB kids are very important because it kept them grounded.
You get some of the alumni to come back and speak to your current players?
All the time. They come down. And, we have the alumni game every other year against Heritage High School, and we bring all those players back.
Speaking of alumni, your son went to Warwick. He played football, and we broadcast some of his games.
Mm-hmm. He absolutely did, and he's now in Delaware. He works for the city of Delaware, and so he says he's helping out with like an adult football league while he's there, while he's living there.
So as far as the basketball alignment, as far as the postseason, you've made the postseason before, but you've got bigger goals as well. But that's not your only goal, because your goal is to develop young girls.
Absolutely. Development is the most important thing. If you develop and don't worry about winning, then you're going to win. So definitely this year, my focus is development, and if we win, we win.
All right, we'll see how it evolves in the 2020 season. Vanessa, all the best to you and the Warwick Raiders.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate it.
The Warwick Lady Raiders right there, a successful girls basketball coach for decades right here at Warwick High School in Newport News, the oldest school in Newport News. Sports Highlights November show will roll on after these messages.
The Telecommunications Center is an award-winning television production facility for high school students in the Newport News Public Schools. Students can learn studio, remote production, audio operation, editing, directing, and much more. Students can also earn college credit through dual enrollment. The center has graduates working for MTV, ESPN, CNN, Entertainment Tonight, and Tyler Perry Studios. If you want to jumpstart your career in broadcasting, contact your guidance counselor or call 591-4687.
Hi, my name is Barbara Smith, and I'm with the Newport News Public Schools Department of Transportation. At the bus stop, students should stand away from the road in an orderly fashion and always be mindful of other people's property. While on the school bus, students should always behave, keeping their hands, heads, and any other objects inside the bus so as not to distract the driver from keeping their eyes on the road. Motorists must stop for a school bus and remain stopped until the bus's lights are off and begins to move again. Here at Transportation, our #1 objective is the safety of the children.
Music and fine arts provide enriching experiences. They teach students that there can be more than one solution to a problem, more than one right answer, that mistakes are learning experiences and present an opportunity to be creative and flexible. The arts encourage persistence and dedication. They require sustained concentration, personal reflection involving critical analysis, and self-adjustment to reach desired goals. These are essential 21st century skills recognized as important to productive career and citizen success. Each student deserves and benefits from an arts-rich education.
And welcome back to our November edition On the Road, Sports Highlights on the Road, countdown to 300 shows in March of 2020, the only Newport News school or city program that's been honored by the City Council. Always a pleasure to be with you right here, talking to Lamont Struthers, who went to Christopher Newport in his second full year as basketball coach with the Monarchs. Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you.
You're starting to get comfortable now. This is your home. You got your son here, and you've done very well with the Monarchs. The transition wasn't necessarily easy, but you made the most out of it.
Yeah, I mean, we started, when I took over for Coach Moore, God rest his soul, but, I was at Smithfield before I came here, but I was helping Coach Moore before I went to Smithfield. So, but, the transition wasn't easy at the beginning when Coach Moore passed away and I took over and I stepped in for him. But we weathered the storm, we managed, our emotions and everything that went on during that time, and we came out pretty good.
Because even before he passed, I mean, he made most of his mark at Warwick High School.
Correct.
Had a little stint in college, but he wasn't going to coach forever. So the timing worked out pretty well for you because the players are so traumatized when they lose a figure like Ben Moore. You kind of helped ease that pain.
Right, because I was already here as well, and the kids are familiar with me. A lot of the kids play AAU for me or with me. A lot of them work out with me and train with me. So the transition, be as it may, still having Coach Moore pass away, the transition was easier because it was someone they were familiar with, and then someone they respected as well, and looked at it, as a father figure like they looked at Coach Moore.
You have a rich tradition in basketball since the time you were a kid. Talk about where you played high school and as you evolved to Christopher Newport.
High school, I played at Forest Glen High School, which is over in Suffolk now, which is Lakeland and Nansen River when they dispersed the teams or the students and rezoned and built the two schools. Then I went to Christopher Newport. I stayed out of school a year. I mean, I have a book that's called Blurred Victories that we're in the process of finishing up, but it tells about that whole transition. But I played at Forest Glen, then transitioned over to CNU in '87, '88, and then 4 great years there under Coach Moore and Coach Ross, and I got drafted into the NBA from there.
Yeah, and Coach Willem, of course, was a big part of it. The late C.J. Willem. How was your relationship with C.J. as a player, and then after as a player as well?
Coach he put a lot of order, to the kids. Make sure you're on time for practice, make sure you're on time for class and things like that. And some of those things that, we experienced with Coach Willem, I kind of, applied to the kids I work with now. And then afterwards, we stayed in contact a lot once I went to the league and talked a lot over the phone. And I came back and spoke at the camp and participated in the camp that he used to run every year.
When you think about it, you played in the NBA for a little bit, and you had some time in other places too, but when you played at Ratcliffe Gym, there was no place like that. And he thought that the new facility was going to have that electric feeling that, let's say, maybe not Duke or North Carolina, but a packed house. But really the best packed house was when you were playing.
Yeah, Ratcliffe is for one, I think we only seated 800 kids. And those 800 seats we probably had 650 a night or 700 a night. And some of the players and I have commented on this same scenario. It felt more personable when in Ratcliffe because the fans are like right there. You're taking the ball out. I mean, playing in bigger arenas I've played in, it's the same effect. It's just not the same amount of people. And the kids today are not as in tune with the sports that they when back then. And sometimes you have to, like I know William and Mary, and even when the Sixers had that stint when they weren't that good, every night they had some event to try to get the kids there or get the fans there, and so you have to be creative when you have when you build those big facilities and you don't have the same amount of students to help just fill the facility. So it's I mean the campus field is still great, because it's not. I mean, even though they've expanded, it's not a Virginia Tech when the campus is so wide. But the professors and everyone still kind of know you by name and things like that. So that part is still there. It's just that you don't have the same field inside the Freeman Center that you had in Ratcliffe.
Talking to Lamont Struthers, he's the head basketball coach for the boys from Benchville High School, also coached at Warwick as well. And before we talk about a little bit about the NBA, that transition, you were actually coaching somewhere else when Ben passed away.
Correct. I was coaching at Smithfield. I was actually assisting Coach Moore here, and then had taken the position over at Smithfield after I spoke to my son before I left to go over there, because it was a big thing for me. I've been my son all his life, and I just wanted to make sure that he was okay with me transitioning over to Smithfield and coach them, because a lot of kids over at Smithfield, work out and train with me. So I've been knowing a lot of those kids since they were, 8, 9 years old. Tyler McGee is one of them who's a senior this year. And then when Coach Moore passed, I had a conversation again with my son. He asked would I consider coming back, and I said, well, let me talk to Coach and Mr. Edwards and Mr. Seri and see. And I told him I would help out any way possible, because I was in Manassas when Coach Moore was at the funeral and he passed away. I was at Manassas on the sideline coaching my baby boy.
Because you've done a lot of volunteer work as well. Credit to you, and you always told me that nobody can tell you what to do when you're a volunteer.
Right.
But now as the head basketball coach, your demands on your time with the academics is a little bit different too, because now you are paid to do this and you're expected to be at every game and every practice.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, that was one of my things when I was at CNU. I didn't necessarily want to get paid because I was doing so much outside of CNU that it would kind of force me to be there if they paid me. And I just enjoyed being around the game and helping Coach Hunter and things like that. So,
tell us about your experience in the NBA from start to finish, and also other places you played professionally.
I played with Clyde Drexler, who they used to consider the Michael Jordan of the West. And then of course I played against Mike my rookie season. When I travel and speak, and one of the things that I talk about is that the opening or the icebreaker is the introduction to Michael Jordan, when he caught the lob and so forth. But however, that whole experience was different because I was a D3 athlete. I wasn't a D1 athlete. And so there's some things that I wasn't accustomed to wherein the D1 athlete was. And so that kind of put me in a step backwards, so to speak. So I had to work my way back up to be considered to get on the floor to things, because I could score with the best of them. I showed that in practice, but it was just little details that I struggled with in the NBA, like just knowing how to come off the screen correctly and things like that.
Because you play at the Division III level, you were probably a Division I player playing Division III in Division III gym, so I'm sure at first the NBA arenas probably were a little intimidating. Here you are coming from a small part of Virginia to playing an NBA arena where you already set mentally for that experience.
Well, once I went, I played in the PIT, but once I left the PIT, I was selected to play out in Orlando Classic, which we played in, a big arena then. And I don't know if that ever really frightened me or if I ever had stage fright for that, because once you toss the ball up, my surroundings were not there. It's like I'm in that cage. And so when I'm in that cage or nothing else really mattered at that time. It's just focused on the court, fans and things like that. But overseas, when I went overseas, I really took off again, because in overseas you have to be that person. You can't be, mediocre. If you come into a team, they expect you to carry the team. You got to be the star. You got to be, you have to score. You have to pass. You have to rebound. You have to defend. And I did all that. And I used to take that personal when a Division I guy would come over or an NBA guy would come over, and he would take it for granted. I would just let him know, like, hey man, I've sent a lot of guys home. Yeah,
Moses Malone did not play college at all, and Kersey, who played for Longwood, did the same thing. He played at a small school and played in the NBA. You seem like you really enjoy coaching the Menchville boys basketball team. You seem like you're at peace coaching here. Happy, of course, your son's playing. You're mentoring him, but you're mentoring his friends too. But you seem like you really are enjoying it.
I mean, it's the same as a player. And because when I retired still on top of the game. But I didn't retire for an injury or anything. I didn't have an injury. I retired because I wasn't having fun anymore. But being on the court is still like at home for me. So no matter where I was, when I was at Bethel, Warwick, NSA, Smithfield, I enjoyed where I was. And here it's a lot more familiarity. I mean, with Coach Henderson, Mr. Seri. Mr. Seri have seen me working with little kids since 2005.
Yeah.
And so he knows that, my interest is making sure they're turn to productive citizens.
But you mentioned, like, you know, I do a lot of TV stuff, and the travel and the grind can wear on you. It can really wear on a Major League Baseball player, 81 trips a year, and NBA as well. With postseason, look at Kobe and LeBron, how many leg years they've had just in the postseason. It can wear on you mentally, can it?
It can,
Yeah.
and that was the one thing I was saying when I retired. You know, it wasn't that I couldn't play anymore. It's that, you know, I was the older guy watching some of the younger guys come over and not taking the game seriously, and that's frustrating when you know all the time you put in and all the hard work and dedication that you've given to the game, and to watch someone who's super talented come over and just abuse it. And so those things like that started to weigh on me. And then I was missing my kids. You know, my daughter started doing things. You know, they wave at the plane when I leave. And, you know, all that started to weigh on me. And those were the things when like I said, I wasn't having fun anymore. And I wasn't having fun on the court. Body-wise, I took care of my body. You know?
Right.
I mean, I can still play now, you know. But
It's the before and after that was tough.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah.
But you're all right. This is not a Dallas Cowboys coach here, but we'll ask you this, Coach. How does your team look this year? And talk about your squad as far as some of the opponents you'll be keeping an eye on.
Our team will be pretty good. I mean, we've been working. We've done real well over the summer. We're in the weight room. We're doing things to take care of the bodies. As far as the season and my opponents, you know, I don't really know a lot about, because a lot of teams lost some kids. But I know Woodside is going to be good because Steph does a good job down there. I know JD is going, well, Phoebus is going to be good. Kickertan is going to be good. Teams that I know right off that were good last year that still had, you know, good pieces of the puzzle. But as far as everyone, you know, I know some guys have made some upgrades, you know, to their team, and we made an upgrade as well. So we'll be right in the mix of it.
It was tough to play on the road in college and the NBA. Is it tough in high school? Even road trips sometimes can be difficult as far as the atmosphere at some of those schools you were talking about.
Yeah, it depends on the school.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Phoebus, their fans are really into it. Places like Northview, Maury, their teams are really into it, and so it can be challenging. You know, you just got to keep your kids focused.
Well, we look forward to doing some of your games this year. Always
sir.
a pleasure to talk to you. Your career has evolved, your life has evolved, and we're all proud of you here at Newport News.
I appreciate it.
Lamont Struthers right there, the head basketball coach for the Menchville Monarchs, completing our November 2020 show. Played in the NBA, played at Christopher Newport under the late C.J. Woolham, and made a mark of his own as an adult as well. So I hope you enjoyed our first interview with Vanessa Starks, the girls basketball coach at Warwick High School, and Lamont Struthers, the boys basketball coach at Menchville High School. For Ray Price, I'm Greg Bicaveras. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you soon.